Hello and welcome to Eurosport's coverage of the Tour de France. We're here at Villard-de-Lans and it's the rest day of this tour, but there's still one more week ahead of us and lots of exciting racing ahead.
The line. Johan Museeuw shoved his bike across the line just in front of the man in the green jersey, Olav Ludwig. What a spectacular picture postcard finish that was. So Steve Bauer still in yellow, and this many people begin to talk about, this gutsy rider, just how long he could hang on to the yellow jersey. But another big talking point next day was the retirement of Laurent Fignon on the stage from Avranches to Rouen. He got off his bike at the halfway point. It was a terrible long day, but psychologically he was being smashed, I think, by having the crash, losing 44 seconds and aggravating the injury that he got in the Tour of Spain. So next day, again, it was a lone ride by Kenneth Sullivan, and look at the way the 7-11 team in the red and green are chasing down the lone leader. Because Kenneth Sullivan at one time had a lead of something like 12 minutes on the field and was in danger of taking the yellow jersey. But by the time he'd been in the saddle for 7 hours and 43 minutes, the field had begun to pull back his lead, and so Steve Bauer kept the yellow jersey and Sullivan was not in there with a chance of taking it off him. So yet again, Steve Bauer proving the pundits that he was there to keep that yellow jersey as long as possible. And also history being made because here Oliver Ludwig putting on the Green's Points jersey. We saw him sprint into Mont Saint-Michel in green, and up there too, the other jersey, Victor, was Claudio Chiappucci, a very good Italian hill climber, and he went away with that leading group on day one to get a few hill preen points well in advance, and he kept that jersey at this stage. So let's then have a look at that general classification. All those four riders down from first to fourth were in that breakaway group. See how Greg Soloveld moved up into fifth place after his long lone break. How Carla, Kelly and Rooks closely packed behind. You can see the deficit of over 10 minutes. That was the problem of that first day when they let that break go. And many other favourites likewise suffering over 10 minutes back. And we can see the names there, people that were among the selections that we were making at the start to say who would win in Paris, and perhaps it would be one of those you see at the bottom of that general classification list. 138, Fabio Parra, but still the climbers loved the mountains and they were yet to come. The stage Sarrebourg to Vittel was not a particularly hilly one, so on this occasion yet again the mountain climbers would have to wait to try and reduce that deficit which they got. 202 kilometres. Along the way there was going to be a couple of sprints and two fourth category climbs, and we can see here where they're starting. They actually got there to Sarrebourg by flying right the way across from the finish the day before at Rouen. They had a rest day and had a day off, but flying proved to be quite tedious for many of the riders. And then on this stage then, from Sarrebourg to Vittel, the riders were wedged right across the road, and bang, down you see a crash. That's one of the problems of when the field slows. They've got one rider trying to break away, and down they went. So 45 kilometres to go, and there was consternation in the crash. And there you can see Flavio Giapponi having to get a new bicycle. That's the rider from the career squad, and he's rather badly hurt. Also in there was Christian Schober. He was down likewise. And the Zeds doing a tremendous job on the front, chasing down here because they've got to protect Ronan Pensek, who is nicely placed overall position, right up with Steve Bauer, trying to challenge him. But this lad going on for a long lone ride to the finish, and he really is setting a hot pace, and they're coming across to join up with him. This is a very interesting break indeed. Fidanza looks back over his shoulder to see that he's got company. Guy Newlands has gone across to join up with him. And these three now, with about 16 kilometres to go, looking for a stage victory here in Vittel. Now, there's no reason for number 64, Newlands, to do any work, because in the green jersey, his teammate with the Panasonic squad needs all the points he can get. So he's leaving Fidanza up here in front, who won the penultimate stage at last year's Tour de France, to do all the work. And the rest of the field beginning to wake up to the challenge and the chance that perhaps those three might stay away. Lovely shot from a helicopter. We've been getting some extremely good pictures in the Tour, despite we seem to have one day rain, one day fine. The camera doing a wonderful job in picking up all the action, and look at that field. Over 198 started the field. One by one they've been dropping off with the accidents that have happened and fatigue in some cases. So still, yet again, no action from Newlands to try and speed this bunch along. He's just acting as policeman. Put his arm warmers down. Those black cuffs, by the way, those are the arm warmers that they have when it's particularly cold. But it's got quite warm now, and so these riders setting a hot pace in toward the finish. Moving through for having a bit of a dig at the front now. It looks as if Newlands, Fidanza and Skibby. I saw Fidanza look back then, which obviously shows that Fidanza is worried about a group coming up from behind. So they've still got something around about 20 odd kilometres to go. And here is a threat, because coming up from behind, three riders, Nydam is in there, together with Muzio. And Johan Muzio, we saw him sprint the other day. And look at the train here, number 62, that is Ladislav Yakimov of the Panasonic squad. Holder of some 11 world records. He's 15th overall at 16 minutes down, so he's no threat to the yellow jersey of Steve Bauer. But there are 20 kilometres to go. And yet again, the Panasonic rider will not do the work. These are tactics of the Tour de France. There are 22 teams in the race, and the Buckler team in the blue and the white are some extremely good sprinters, as are the Panasonics. It's the Dutch teams and the Belgian teams. They're very good on the flat. Here we've got a Belgian leading up in front. That is Jan Muzio. He's pulled off the front now, and Nydam took over. and the Soviet Union rider behind him, Yakimov. This tour creating history in more ways than one, because there's a full team of Soviet Union riders in there riding for Alpalum. The first time a full team of professionals have ridden from the Soviet Union in the Tour de France. And also we've got Yakimov from the Soviet Union riding with the Panasonic squad. We've also got three very, very good East Germans, including Olav Ludwig, who rides for this team in the red, yellow and blue colours. As looking back over his shoulder, Johan Museeuw settles down with this very useful group now, 6 men like this. This is about the ideal composition of a group working on the flat to go into a stage finish without any big climbs en route. Museeuw 39th overall at 11 minutes 18 seconds. Again, none of those riders any serious threat to the yellow jersey of Steve Bauer, but Steve would not want them to get too far in front and would drive it on, and just going into the town to the finish at Vittel, 2 slipping away. Fidanza just going off the front. And you can imagine all the organisation here for the Tour de France. See on either side of the road the barriers. They have to put those out sometimes the day before and certainly early morning. They link them all up to stop the traffic going across the roads. The roads are closed for anything up to 4 hours before the tour comes through. And alongside here you can see all those vehicles. That's part of the tour caravan. They begin to swing in towards the finishing straight. The preparation, the advanced planning is tremendous to bring the tour into any town, and these spectators witnessing 2 great sprinters about to launch themselves into action. So Fidanza looks over his shoulder, Skibby is there with him, and the rest are coming up very fast indeed. So they've got to do something about it. So Skibby in the blue starts to wind it up. Fidanza behind him gets onto his wheel, and the big pack swings into sight within the green jersey. Olav Ludwig looking for some more points to defend that jersey. And this slight uphill finish, 400 metres to go. Skibby switches to try and get the rest of the field off his wheel. He only opened up a couple of lengths lead, it gives him a chance. And going for a long one, chopping on the inside. A very good move there by Jelle Neidem, who won 2 stages in last year's Tour de France, and comes from a very famous cycling family. His father, Henk Neidem, was World Pursuit Champion, and the rest pursuing this man across the line. So for the Buckler squad, a win for Jelle Neidem, and that was 2 days on the trot, because Solleveld riding for Buckler, having won the day before. So that was double success for Jan Raas's team. Jan himself, a very great rider in the Tour de France, and now managing the Buckler team, which is a non-alcohol beer company sponsoring cycle racing for the first time. Confirmation of that sprint then for Neidem, beating Skibby, Museeuw, Fidanza, Yakimov and Neuland, all his breakaway companions. And Adriano Baffi, winner of a couple of stages in the Tour of Italy in this year's event, leading home the main pack, hotly pursued by Olav Ludwig. Well, we've been having more than our fair share of abandons, even on the flat stages, for one reason or another. The departure of Fignon, we then had Argentin also involved in a crash in the wet, so he was out of the tour, and Mario likewise getting off his bicycle. So he won't be featuring anywhere in the general classification now. He's gone home, leaving Bauer, Ponsac, Masson and Chiappucci, our breakaway group, still firmly at the head of the race. And Solleveld still in 5th after that nice lone break of his, and the rest still hovering over 10 minutes back on Steve Bauer. And the same for the rest of the people who can climb the mountains well, and they must be wondering what they've got to do to try and chip away at that lead. But 7-11 have done a wonderful job to keep Bauer in contention and not let any of these top contenders get away. So for people like Delgado, 12 minutes back, that's no great worry when they get in the mountains, because last year he was something like about 10 minutes down, if I remember correctly, after the team time trial, Delgado, and only finished 3 minutes off Le Mans when they finally got to Paris. Just to give you some idea of how the mountains can change things. So Bauer collecting yet another lion. I think he's opening up a zoo back at home when he gets with all that little lot. And the kisses from the hostesses here from the Credit Lyonnais, who sponsor the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. And King of the Mountains, a change in the jersey. This is also history that was made in the Tour de France. Konashev putting on the polka dot jersey, and this man has become quite a threat to top professionals. Last year he surprised everybody by taking a silver medal in the World Road Pro Championships. And here's another man that's caught everybody napping with his superb sprinting. He won the points jersey in the Tour de Trump in America. He's come across here at the Tour de France and won this one as well. At the moment, there's a long way yet to go. So a long way still for Olav Ludwig to carry that jersey into Paris. Well, we wish you well then, and there's a lot more coming up in this programme. Don't forget, we're going to cover 12 of the opening stages. Do join us after this break. Welcome back to our coverage of the highlights of the Tour de France, which has been most fascinating in the early stages. We're going on now to cover the stage 7, the Vitel Epinal, the race against the watch. And this is always known as the race of truth, by the way, because there's nobody to shelter behind. On these occasions, you always have to do everything yourself. You have to judge the route exactly. You have to time yourself to perfection. And it's on these sort of courses that many of the top men can change the face of the race. Who can forget that brilliant finish in Paris last year when Greg LeMond took the yellow jersey of Laurent Fignon by a slender 8 seconds. So what changes will we see today then, with 61.5 kilometres to be covered, a fairly flat course, although you can see there it does go up and down a little bit, and there are short, sharp little climbs that stretch the legs. Early in the morning, dry conditions for Miguel Indurain to set the best time of 1:19.10, and down there it looks to me as if, my mistake, it was Delgado's time, 1:19.10. Indurain coming in here. The figures showing that he's giving an extremely good ride. They're both riding for the Benesto squad. It's a financial company and bank in Spain, and this going into full sponsorship. And they've already got Delgado doing 1:19.10, but Indurain taking the lead with a cracking ride. So out on the course, Greg LeMond, using those very unique handlebars with a single stem up in front to give him an even more streamlined position, was finding the hills a bit hard. Later on he was to complain he didn't hit the hills and ride as fast as he could do. Gianni Bugno, the winner of the Tour of Italy this year, he actually wore the pink jersey from the prologue time trial right through to the finish. Also put in a fine ride, 1:18.52 to go into second place. But now with the rain coming down, LeMond having to brake on those strange handlebars, switching from one sort to another. You have quite a learning process, but he was out actually at the Le Mans race course trying these particular bars at 1.2, and that helped him 1:19.16 to take fourth place, but he wasn't particularly happy with his performance on the day. But behind the riders chasing after individual honours to win the stage, a very interesting race was going on between Steve Barr and Ronan Pensek. These two had started the day with something like 34 seconds separating them on general classification, and Steve Barr knew that he had to ride hard, but an even faster time was being set by Raul Alcala, the Mexican who last year created history by being the first Mexican to win a stage in the Tour de France when he took the stage into Spa. Crossed the line 1:17.05 to take first place, a tremendous difference between that and the time of Indurain, which had been set up under dry conditions. So when Ronan Pensek came in, he had a very slippery drop down into the town, a lot of twists and turns. He took it rather carefully, but he still wanted to pull every second that he could do out of Steve Barr, crossing the line in 1:19.31, and that was the time that everybody was going to check when Steve Barr came in. So remember that 1:19.31, and only 34 seconds had separated them at the start of this time trial. The man in yellow, Barr, an all-round gutsy rider, second this year in the Paris-Roubaix, finished 1:19.48, just 17 seconds that he lost there. So the confirmation of the result put Alcala as the stage winner, 1:17.05. You can see the rest of the top riders begin to move through now. Indurain, Bugno, Delgado, LeMond, all those people, including Jean-Francois Bernot, going to challenge for the yellow jersey, as is Ronan Pensek in 7th place, only 2:26 down. Smile then from Raul Alcala. That's his second stage victory in the Tour de France, and the man who won the Tour de Trump in early May looks to me that he's coming into form at just the right time, and the PDM squad are very, very strong indeed. So Alcala moving up into 5th place. You can see his time there in the middle of our chart at 7:19, but the gap between Barr and Pensek in 1st and 2nd place now only 17 seconds. Chapuis and Marsens holding on to their places. Solival, LeMond and Amper just behind them, but that's a very good ride by Alcala that's put him in a position to have a go at that yellow jersey in the mountains. Rest of the field, you can see Delgado's pulled back a minute and a half or so, but Fabinho, Rooks and Roche took a very bad ride. He suffered from what we call hunger knock. He didn't eat the right sort of food, and towards the end he absolutely faded. At one point he caught up with Martin Early, 2 minutes in front of him, and he absolutely faded towards the end. So bad luck for Stephen Roche, and good fortune smiling again on the brave Steve Barr to maintain that yellow jersey. So after the time trial then, the next stage, Épinal to Besançon. And this particular stage, 181 miles, as the riders were beginning to get towards the mountains. Still nothing serious for them to contest today over the 181.5 kilometres. So possibly every chance for the man in the yellow jersey, Steve Bauer, to retain that lead. But just think those slender few 17 seconds between himself and the Z rider Ronan Pansek. Over a course like this, you have to watch every move, and you need a strong team to keep an eye on the action. Well, it suited Bauer, I think, to have this rider go into lead, because Michel Vermote of the RMO team, you can see there he's 93rd at this point in the race, 17 minutes 35 seconds down. He's got 66 kilometres to go to the finish, and he is doing a tremendous ride all on his own, but the field begin to reel him in, and when they get him in sight, then certainly the action will come thick and fast, because at one time his lead was something in excess of 12 minutes, and he's suffering, and when they finally catch up with him, he has to know now he's got to find some extra strength. Look at the look on his face. One of the domestiques of the RMO squad, his job is to help Charlie Motte. If Motte wants a drink, he'll go and get it for him. If Motte wants to be chased back into the bunch, he'll chase him, or Cravelet, the mountain climber, wants some assistance before they get to the hills. So Vermote, his job done, went back into the bunch, but I have to tell you, he got blown straight out at the back. So having spent something like about 115 kilometres in front of the race, he's got to spend the next 25 kilometres off the back, struggling to stay in the race. So with the action coming thick and fast, heading on down in to the finish at Besançon, attacks coming off all the time. We've had Jacques Anquetil's won a stage here in the past, so did Henk Nydam, the father of Jelle Nydam. So Nydam would love to have got a success this day running into Besançon. And Jean-Paul Van Poppel, another very good sprinter, still trapped back in the bunch. This little group of riders getting away meant that neither Nydam nor Van Poppel had made the right move, and they weren't going to get across at this rate or not, because they're Denny's for the Weinmann squad, that's the black and yellow and green colours, setting a hot pace. He's got Andres Kappers in there, nice little group coming up to join them. And with Pansek and the 711 team, with Bauer at the back watching what's going on, with 1 kilometre to go, still the pressure at the front, and a nice group as they go through. In there was Michel Derniz, Bruno Cornelet from the Z squad, Pascal Lance from Toshiba, Jacobs of PDM, Eric van Lanker from the Panasonic team, Christophe Lavienne from the Castorama squad, Andres Kaps from Toshiba, Ron Kiefel just there in second place from 711, allowed off the leash because his team leader was well protected by the rest of the 711, so Kiefel had just gone up to keep an eye on things and make sure that Pansek didn't jump across. Colotti of RMO in there, and Girotto of the Carrera squad. So quite a useful gang. In fact, I was looking like 13 men in fact, and just about every one of them is from a different team. So none of the teams behind are going to chase this one down, and it's a chance for some of the, excuse me, say lesser lights to try and score a stage success, but that's what does happen on these sort of occasions. Coming up into finishing straight, and Cornelet trying to do what he can to go for the stage success. And a big sprint ensues. Up there, in there, Ludwig had also joined them, but across the line in first place. Back then, Van Lanker celebrating his day well done. So that was a tremendous sprint across the line. So for Ludwig, who was in that little group, we didn't spot him when I was looking back down the line. He made a very good move indeed. And you see the 711 boys here coming in, and in the centre of the field, Bauer making sure that he kept that yellow jersey. So bad luck to Michel Vermote, who tried so hard to win the stage, and good success over the line then for Ludwig to win the stage and go past Johan Buzio. You can see the rest of that attacking group that went away, couldn't catch Ludwig on the line, so he created history yet again. Apart from wearing the green jersey, the first rider from East Germany ever to win a stage in the Tour de France. There he is, receiving not only a kiss but an enormous cheese. And I should think if one of the smaller riders had got that, he'd have collapsed off the podium. But Ludwig, very strong rider indeed, 30 years of age, something like 36 stages in the peace race he's won. So still in the lead then by 17 seconds, Pansek. No real change overall on the general classification, because as you saw on our screen, the majority of the bunch coming in together, and that left Steve Bauer in the lead. So Steve putting on the yellow jersey yet again. What a tremendous rider he is, So we wished him luck as he went into the next stage. We hope you'll come back after the break to see more action from the Tour de France. Welcome back to Eurosport's view of the highlights of the Tour de France, and the next stage coming up then from Besançon to Genève. And what an interesting race we've had so far. And yesterday's stage was on the day, of course, the finals of the World Cup, and Oliver Ludwig retired to his hotel bedroom to watch the football match and to celebrate his stage in fine style. He also, by the way, going on that stage the day before, passed through near the village where the founder of the race of the World Cup, Jules Rimet, lives. But today they're going from Besançon to Geneva, and this is taking the race out of France and over into Switzerland. The pack closely together, because up in front we've got a breakaway group that prize themselves clear on the climb of the Côte des Russes, and these are the two riders that went up that climb after 125 kilometres had been covered. Eduardo Chozas and Massimo Girotto heading towards the border between France and Switzerland. As they cross just here, no time for passports or what have you. This is one of the unique things that happens in the Tour de France, that the whole entourage goes straight across borders, and the race has started and been in many countries in its time. Even in fact we had a stage go across over to England at one point, and there's some talk about even trying to start the Tour de France in America, but I don't think the riders will like that one. As those two went away, they're being chased down by as many attacks as possible, and it's the gutsy Australian, as they were getting in towards the final 12 kilometres or so, that to try to pull them back. Here the Z team putting the pressure on, because Ronan Pansek in that yellow jersey, they're trying to wear down Steve Bauer, and in fact at one time on the climb up the Côte des Russes, Steve Bauer was out of a group of 19 men that went away, and Frans Maassens technically took the yellow jersey, but fine chase by the 7-11 team, got it together, and they never caught these two riders on the top of the climb, because once they'd gone up there for something around about 20 kilometres and down the other side, they've been chased all the way through. The last attack of the day to try and pull them back was Christophe Lavienne. Christophe Lavienne, who got a second place on the stage when Argentin won, when he thought he won, in fact, by throwing his arms in the air, not knowing that Argentin was in front. But right now he could see the two in front. The field could see Lavienne as well, stringing on into the finish in Geneva. The first time there's been a finish here for like 39 years, and the last time a Swiss rider got it, but there's no Swiss rider in this lot at the moment. Italian and a Spaniard going to the line, and it was a win then for Massimo Girotto from Eduardo Chozas of Madrid. Lavienne, who tried so hard to pull them back, just didn't quite judge it and had to be satisfied with a third place, which seems to be his usual slot. He's been third twice in the World Cyclo-Cross Championship, but here the sun shining on him, unlike the miserable conditions that often face the cyclo-cross riders in the winter. The rest of the field stringing in, and back in the main field after Girotto had won the stage, Bauer came in with the pack. So there we saw the result. Girotto winning from Chozas, Lavienne in third place, Holm, the champion of Denmark, over in fourth, and a group of riders behind them, all I think waiting mainly for the mountains yet to come. So Geneva, having had a stage for the first time in 39 years in the Tour de France, had an Italian win it this time. Massimo Girotto, he's already a very good sprinter in stage racing. He won a stage in the Tour of Spain last year. So he's a very tall rider, you can see, but he managed to get up those hills, a good all-round climb. His job really is to defend his teammate Chiappucci, who's also challenging for the overall league. You can see they're in fourth place, Chiappucci from Carrera 1:07 down on Bauer. So the situation as it was this morning, Alcala still in fifth place, Le Mans sixth, Uwe Ampler seventh, and Sean Kelly back there in eighth place. The rest of the riders, the stars which we're looking for, Yakimov still up in 10th place, Eric Bruking 11th now, 10:32, and Bogno, Rooks, Delgado and Roche. Well, Roche still not having a very good tour, still 12 minutes 44 seconds down. Yet again, in that yellow jersey, Steve Bauer, leader after stage 9. That is a record as far as he's concerned. He had the yellow jersey on day 1 in 88 and held it for another 4 days before they got to the Alps. So as we go on then to stage 10, from Geneva to Saint-Gervais-Mont Blanc, this is quite a tough one. They're very soon out of Switzerland and heading towards Saint-Gervais-Mont Blanc. There's a little curl in the map there, like a U shape. Well, right in the middle of that U is the town Solange where Charlie Motte lives, so no doubt his family will be out to cheer him on the way. And look at the climbs they're going to tackle on this stage of the race. Up to 5,292 feet, then down the dip and up again to 4,915. And as soon as you're over the top and down again, they've got that climb up to La Betex. First time we've ever had a finish up at La Betex, and it was a day when Thierry Claverelet decided that he would show his climbing ability, and setting a very hard pace here at 4 kilometres to go to the finish. I have to tell you that he went away after only 37 kilometres of the race up the Col de la Cambière. He went over the top, collecting himself 3,000 francs for being first over there. That's about £300, and he pressed on. He took the climb that followed right the way up and over the top of the Col des Arrives, and the Z squad here, that's Robert Miller going around the corner, 1, 2, 3, 4 back, another of the jerseys, the light blue ones of the Z team, that's Ronan Pansek, who was really riding very hard indeed this day, because on July the 10th, this was the day of Ronan Pansek's birthday. Up in front, the battle was going on for the stage, as Claverelet climbing the hill. Charlie Motti, who knows this hill well, they've not raced up it before, couldn't attack his teammate, this fellow from RMO, Claverelet. He has to ride back with the chasing group, does Charlie Motte, allowing his teammate to come in after a fantastic ride. No doubt about it, it was a brilliant performance by Thierry Claverelet, probably one of the best of his career. Extremely good climber. Last year he crashed out of the Tour de France, injured a wrist, tried to ride on, but had to abandon on stage 9. So he's got his first ever stage success in the Tour de France. Behind him, Uwe Ampler trying to get a good second place, and Charlie on his wheel. Motte let him take the lead and came off the wheel. Little Charlie Motte on the right, Uwe Ampler on the left, with Ampler on the line, who just managed to shove his bike forward. And again, for the East German, that was quite a unique experience, taking a second place in the Tour de France. So that was confirmation of the result. Looking down that list, you can see the damage that was done by Claverelet. Winterberg over 2 minutes down in 8th place. But even more so, the damage that was being done further down the field, because Steve Bauer had been really in trouble all day in the mountains. He just could not stay with the race, and so whilst Claverelet up there collecting his honours as stage victor, the man in extremely good form this year, having won the early stage of the Dauphiné de Bera and finished second overall at the end of it. That's a very hilly race indeed, so he's very much in his element. But the damage that was caused was by Ronan Pansek, now in the lead by 50 seconds from Chiappucci. Bauer dropped to third, 1:21 down on a very bad day. Frans Maassen still fourth at 2:27, losing time on Pansek, who rode tremendously well. And Pansek still having a very good advantage over a lot of the star riders. Now, Pansek is an extremely good climber, and there's some concern there and then amongst the other teams that they might have missed the move when he went away on day 1. But what a birthday for this fella. 27 years of age on July the 10th, and there is a yellow jersey. That'll be a present I'm sure he's going to frame and put on his wall, because the big mountains of Mont Blanc, they're ahead of the riders, and the Alps, the very serious racing, yet to come as far as they're concerned. To our continued coverage of the first 12 days of racing in the Tour de France. The highlights of what has been a most fascinating race, with the lead going from Steve Bauer to Ronan Pansek on Pansek's birthday. A lot of the other star riders beginning to move up and wait for the chance of taking up the challenge for that yellow jersey on this very hilly part of the course, because we're up where reputations have been made and lost. The climb of the Alpe d'Huez is ahead of the riders on this very, very tough stage today, 182.5 kilometres from Saint-Gervais, Mont Blanc to the Alpe d'Huez. The Alpe d'Huez has had over the years a reputation, and you can see why, because it's right at the top of the climb which ends the day's racing, having started there at Saint-Gervais-Mont Blanc, dropping down the valleys, then to the Col de Madeleine, 6,500 feet, down and up the other side of the Glandon for 6,398 feet, and to finish off then with another what they call all category climb, that one that is almost impossible to describe, 6,000 feet that they've got to climb up to the top of. The air is thin, it suits the mountain climbers, and here on the Col de Madeleine, already the top riders are beginning to put the pressure on the rest of the field. Bauer has been shot out the back and is unable to hold the pace, so he's really got to say goodbye to that yellow jersey. But it's a day when Ronan Pansek has got to ride as strongly as ever to try and defend that, because Chiappucci is an extremely good climber, but one man who shot his bow was Stephen Roche, who was looking to come back into form in the Tour, but he can't find that elusive effort which gave him the World Championship, the Tour of Italy and the Tour of France all in 1 year. And now what he can do is watch the bunch disappear up the road, as on the front Charlie Motte from the RMO is just easing himself back, and Thierry Cleverley going away yet again in the mountains. But he just demolished everybody yesterday's race, where he just went over all the top climbs, collecting maximum points, and of course lots of cash in the mountains as well. And here on the Col de Madeleine, when they've been climbing for something around about 1,600 metres, 28 kilometres of climbing. That's an enormous long way to go up and up and up. So he went over the top in first place. Thierry Cleverley, pursued by Miguel Anderan, and right behind them, the rest of the bunch, led over by Claude Croquillon, the Belgian national pro champion. Down the other side, Anderan began to drop like a stone, and he managed to go past Cleverley very quickly indeed, and proceeded to open up quite a useful gap and provide a stepping stone for his team leader, Pedro Delgado, because it's very good team tactics. You can get one man away when your team leader can then jump up to him. But look at that, how they sweep around the corners, and a wonderful sight of the best of the climbers in the world stringing along after Anderan. So there, up in front, Anderan, as up to him yet again, Cleverley fighting his way back. This is the most gutsy performance by this rider. The RMO team have really found a star here. We all thought when the tour started that Charlie Motte, who finished second in the Tour of Italy, that's him on the left-hand side with the glass on, that he would in fact be the man who would set the pace for RMO. But Cleverley, 31 years of age, comes from Grenoble. The course is very close to his hometown now. Over the top of that climb, being hotly pursued by a group off the other side, which included Greg LeMond, the world champion at the back there. Now Greg had a great difficulty because his best placed man, Ronan Pansek, in the yellow jersey, was back in the main field. And here they are with the PDM riders having difficulty to get back up at the front. They're worried now because all the star riders are there. Delgado's got across, Indurain on the front, he's still working very hard indeed. So there's a great trouble at the moment with this breakaway group as far as the Zeds are concerned. Although they've got one rider up there, Greg LeMond, Pansek has got to get closer to Delgado. And as far as the Sean Kelly's team are concerned, they've also got to try and get up there because Indurain was riding, and here's Sean Kelly burying himself for his team. Raul Alcala is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back from the front. See the Z jersey, the light blue ones as well, because there's the yellow jersey of Pansek of the Z team, and round about him all the rest of the team as well, because they've got to keep the pressure up on the Chiappucci, who was second that morning on general classification. And look at him shaking his head. Indurain saying, that's it. Delgado said, well done, thank you very much indeed. And off then, yet another attack coming underway. I think that's Chaujas going for this one. This is the town of Bourg-Voisin at the base of the Alpe d'Huez. The chase still on from behind because the riders from the PDM squad concerned about LeMond being up there, Delgado being up there, and up there the rest of the riders beginning to open up a considerable gap, and the pressure from Delgado began to pay. There is LeMond riding himself back into superb form, and also with them Gianni Bugno. What a star cast. Bugno, the man who won this year's Tour of Italy, having one of his finest seasons, and on this big climb up the Alpe d'Huez they passed the memorials to Louis Mbombe and Fausto Coppi. But Fausto Coppi was a winner on this climb way back in 1949, I think it was, when he in fact went on to win the Tour de France. So Fausto Coppi, an Italian legend, and we've got an Italian in that three-man group. And Cleverley, fighting his way back, makes it 4. What a surprise I think these three in front must have had when he popped up to join them. And an extremely good ride as well by Chiappucci, wedged in between them, and across the gap coming here, Eric Breukink for the PDM team. Breukink suddenly coming back into form just at the right time. And LeMond looked back. I don't think he could believe his eyes when he saw Breukink come up. Croquillon also having a good tour, and there's only Robert Miller left with Ronan Pansek. Pansek in the yellow, doing the ride of his life. A good all-rounder Pansek, but this is undoubtedly his best performance in the Tour. And three men have got rid of one, and it's Cleverley who's gone off and come back like a yo-yo. He's backwards and forwards. So we've got in front Bugno, Delgado, and LeMond, and Parra's come up there. Breukink's gone up there as well. In fact, Delgado's just drifted off the back. Parra's come up, so it's all changed on the final few kilometres up into the Alpe d'Huez finish. Chopping into the corner, LeMond out went his back wheel, having difficulty holding the handlebars because in the crash at the feeding station that day, he'd not only cut his knee, but he had in fact dislocated a finger on his left hand. He could hardly hold the handlebars, throwing himself at the line, bike going over the place, really going for a stage win to prove that he's back. Off his wheel, the Italian for the Shadow Dax team, Bugno taking it on the line to win for Italy in the year of the World Cup. Give the Italians something to talk about. Delgado here with his teammate Rondon. Andy Hampson in the green and red, extremely good climber, winner of the Tour of Italy a couple of years ago, now being freed of looking after Steve Bauer, climbing extremely well up the Alpe d'Huez, but they were some 39 seconds down on the victor of the stage, Gianni Bugno. They're finishing over the line in the yellow jersey, Ronan Pensek. And let's have a look at that one again. Just give you some idea what these people have got to contest with after they've ridden all that way over those big mountains. An all-out sprint. Le Bon goes wide, back wheel skids, having difficulty with his sore hand to hold his bike upright. Goes for a long one, looks back, by now exhausted. I mean, when you think of Le Bon this year, he started the season, he had a viral infection, he went back to America to try and train. Then he had food poisoning and he just couldn't. When I saw him ride in the Tour de Trump, he could not even stay with the amateurs. It was a Pro-Am race and there were days when we saw him just drifting off the back. But like a true sportsman, Le Bon is pacing himself perfectly back into health, back into fitness for the events that matter. And of course, he's the defending champion of the Tour de France, having won last year by those slender 8 seconds. But here, he's not going to win the stage. It's Gianni Bugno for the Shadow Dax team, the winner of the Tour of Italy, wins the stage in the Tour de France. Gianni Bugno, Le Monde and Brookie, we saw that come over the line. Brookie coming back into form just at the right time. Cabriolet, the revelation in the mountains, in 4th place. Fabio Parra, who last year retired from the Tour de France and took his whole team with him, also beginning to show good form. The gap then between Pansak and Chiappucci. Chiappucci at one time frightened Pansak by having to go away, but they got him back. He was 128 down overall on general classification. Le Bon moving up to 904. Eric Brooking now in 4th place. Look where Bugno is, and Delgado. So they're all there, but a bad day really on the Alpe d'Huez because there's Stephen Rooks back in 18th place. Kelly had to ride so hard for Alcala that he's now on general classification 20th place. Robert Miller again sacrificing his chances for this man, Ronan Pensek, still in the yellow jersey. A little puffed, I think, by that ride up the Alpe d'Huez, but great teamwork by the Z squad. So that then was the stage 11. Moving on then to stage 12, to Via Dolans. Again, this is an opportunity when, as we say, we're going to have the Jolel race of truth. The event covering 33.5 kilometres being the individual time trial, but unlike the flat one we saw earlier in the programme, this one is virtually all uphill. Just look at that. Starting 689 feet, they're going to finish at 3,773 feet. That's over 3,000 feet of climbing in 33 kilometres. Rasping for breath in the clear air, and here Delgado and Indurain and Montoya and all the big climbers looking forward to a good time. And Indurain, the winner of the Paris-Nice this year for the 2nd year in succession, showing tremendous form as he's coming in. The time of Montoya being defeated by Indurain, who's got into the lead, 57.35. Fabio Parra showing yet again that he's on the way back. And he's using these unusual triathlon bars. Not a lot of the riders prefer them on the day when it's so much uphill, but Parra has an opportunity by resting his arms on the triathlon type bars to get a lot of oxygen into his lungs. It's not a very good streamlined position. He's got his bars a bit high, but it puts plenty of oxygen in his lung, and he does a very good ride. 57.50 to take 2nd place. Lejarreta, what an Ironman. This year he's ridden the Tour of Italy, the Tour of Spain, now the Tour de France, and this is the 3rd year that Lejarreta has done just that. And the crowd love him for his performances, and he loves stage racing too. He's a natural. I mean, many riders, just imagine riding for 3 weeks on your bike, just a couple of rest days, averaging over 100 miles a day, and he's done that in the Tour de France twice in the past. This is his 3rd tour, and it's the 3rd time he's done in succession those big tours as well. Raul Alcala trying to beat that time in Indurain, but outside at 57.58. Alcala, very good time trialist as well, won the time trial in the Tour de Trump and went on the penultimate day to take the overall victory. Still, all these riders, the top 20 or so really worked hard, and Alcala going there in 58 minutes. They all of them try to do what they can to improve their position on general classification. Pedro Delgado putting in a challenge to Miguel Andaran, his team mate, who yesterday sacrificed himself when you saw that wonderful effort of Andaran to drive the break along for Pedro Delgado, who then suffered on the Alpe d'Huez in the final 4 kilometres or so. Delgado making a remarkable recovery and doing what he can to get back every vital second on these challenges for the yellow jersey, because this race then, on this particular stage, stage 12 of the race, and remember they've got a long way to go because on the rest day they're only some halfway round the Tour de France. Delgado 57.21, doing a very good ride to take it at 57.22, pushing his teammate down one notch, but Broeking was working hard on his bike. Eric Broeking, who we're going to talk to later in this programme. His father, Wim, owning the Gazella bicycle factory before he sold it to the rally company. This year he's had some tremendous rides, third in the Tour de Trump, but last year we all thought he was going to be the star of the Tour de France when he won the yellow jersey for the prologue time trial, but then he abandoned on stage 13, and Broeking at most of the previous time checks had been setting the fastest time and was tipped in fact to win this one if he only can keep it up the final climb. Just in front of him, Gianni Bugno started 3 minutes in front, and he's almost got Bugno in sight. Bugno doing quite a good ride. Anybody inside 1 hour on this time trial was in with a good ride, but Broeking was closing up on him. A tremendously good ride indeed by Eric Broeking. Not long after Bugno came into sight, we looked back down the road to see where Broeking had got to. The 26-year-old from Holland, looking so absolutely amazingly calm, and it looks as if it hasn't hurt him. You can imagine the effort they've had to put in to climb something like all those distance, right about 33 kilometres of constant climbing. He's averaged 35 kilometres an hour to do it as well. Greg LeMond searching for a bit more effort and energy from his tired legs. Well, he has been again a revelation of this tour. He's not going to beat Broeking's time, so Broeking will be closing the gap on the people at the top. What a fascinating Tour de France we've got this year. And we've still got the Pyrenees to come. So the battle really is most intricate, because sometimes in the Tour there's only 1 or 2 people, and each day it's those 2. I mean, last year it was Fignon LeMond changing the jersey almost every other day. But this time, although we've seen it change from Bar to Pansec, on this climb up this big hill now, it looks as if it might in fact be trouble for Pansec, because back down the course the times were coming in that Pansec was beginning to struggle, with LeMond going over the line in 57.48 to take at then 5th place. There's no reason that he should be overtaken by many of the other riders coming up behind him, but a great ride by Claudio Chiappucci, and the time checks were showing further down the hill that Ronan Pansec was not able to hold this particularly good performance. So Chiappucci, 27 years of age, here he is coming up toward the finishing line. He was 81st last year in the Tour de France. Just shows you what a year difference can make, and particularly when you're in with a chance of getting the yellow jersey. Chiappucci riding up a very, very good time indeed, and behind Pansec knew that he got to work hard. He started 3 minutes after Chiappucci. There'll be time checks all the way along the road, because when they started out, just 1 minute 28 seconds having separated these 2 riders on general classification. Chiappucci finishing in 57.57. That was a very good time indeed, and behind him Ronan Pansec, urged on by the crowd. He'd got to finish inside the hour to hold that yellow jersey, searching there for a bit more effort, and as coming up the finishing straight, the yellow jersey passed from Ronan Pansec to the shoulders of Claudio Chiappucci. But what a great battle Pansec had put in, and of course anybody can crack, and for my money the Z team are much better in the mountains. They certainly helped Pansec up the mountains when they're racing all together. On the time trial you don't have anybody to aid you in front and encourage you, so though he might have lost out at this moment, coming up here you can see the clock still going on. We'll have to wait and see when he finishes what the gap was at the end, but nevertheless the Z team are very, very strong indeed. So what an intricate battle we've got at the moment between Chiappucci there, because Pansec was back in 49th place, 1 hour and 42 minutes. Look at the scrum. He's absolutely exhausted. These are terrible conditions. I know that we on the reporting side want to get a few comments, but at the moment I don't think he wants to speak to anybody, because the stage was won by Eric Broeking, 56.52. Delgado, very good ride there in 2nd place. Andaran's teammate likewise. And see, LeMond in 5th place, that was a cracking ride for him. Chiappucci, that was the ride of the day. I believe, because in 8th place, only 1 minute 5 seconds down on Breukink, that really helped him advance his lead over Pensek by 1:17. Breukink now moved into 3rd place. That fellow's been climbing up the GC for the last 3 days. Le Monde hovering at 7:27, Delgado 9:02. Alcala, not such a good day. He's over 10 minutes down. I fear that some of those riders who are more than 10 minutes down, Alcala, Bunyo and Kripkelion, are going to have to work a lot when we get down in towards the Pyrenees. Also on general classification here, looking further down the list, we can see now that Roche is really out of it, 36 minutes down. Charlie Motte doing a great team job for Cravelet, back at 34. Brooks, Kelly and Bauer above them. Poor old Steve Bauer, 23 minutes down. What a tremendous battler he was for the first 10 days of the race. There, the yellow jersey for Claudio Chiappucci, the 27-year-old Italian from Uboldo. They'll certainly be celebrating in Italy, I think, what with Bunyo winning the stage yesterday. We haven't had an Italian winner in the Tour de France since Felice Gimondi in 1965. So these are the riders that have gone so far. Laurent Fignon, Gerard Roux have gone. Carlos has gone. PDM lost Martin early. RMO have lost Caritou. Alan Piper and Eddie Plancart gone. Giovanni, Lacruz, Hermans, Hendricks and Pinot. And we've got 3 more out of the Toshiba squad. 2 from his store. And TVM have lost 4 riders. Buckler have lost 2. Eric van der Aarden, in fact, was eliminated for hanging onto a car, spotted by an official in a helicopter. And those are riders out of the Tour at the moment. That's the helicopter that spotted the action. Well, we're going to have a chance now to interview Eric Breukink to see what he's got to say about the Tour.
When stage 1 went under our wheels and there was a 10-minute break, did you ever feel that the race was going to get away from you so you could not come back?
No, 10 minutes is a lot, and it was a big mistake of many teams. We tried that day something, but the other teams wouldn't help, and I think it can be a mistake at the end, but yeah, there are only 2 riders left now, and 1 time trial, Pyrenees, everything is possible.
How strong do you count Le Monde's chances?
He's good. He proved twice that he can win the Tour de France, and yeah, when he's now Pensek is out of the leader jersey, he's going for winning.
So that's all from us at Villard-de-Lans, but stay tuned with us at Eurosport for the final week's racing ahead.
Well, thanks, Rupert, for talking to Eric Breukink. We hope you'll join the programme tomorrow. We've got some more action from the Tour de France. From us here at Eurosport and the Tour de France, goodbye to you all.